First, disconnect the battery, negative terminal. Now I'm going to loosen up the 3 bolts on the filler tube here. That'll allow us to maneuver the filler tube out of the tank once we drop it down. Now we're underneath the car. We've got it jacked up on jack stands. I'm going to remove this other bracket for the fill tube. It's got 1 bolt. Okay, now we're on the driver's side. You can see we got our tank supported by our jack with a piece of wood to spread load the weight. We ran the tank down to about 1/4 of a tank too to make it lighter. So we're going to disconnect the driver's side strap. There's only 1 bolt on this side and it hinges down. Alright, back over on the passenger side. We're going to undo the strap. On this side, this has 2 1/2-inch bolts on there. Okay, now we're going to attempt to lower it down. Again, you want to make sure all the slack's taken out of your tank as you're loosening those straps, because if not, your tank will fall down. Now as we lower this down, it's going to give us a little more room. We're going to try and pull this filler tube out. These can kind of be a pain, so. Alright, as it's coming down, you may need to disconnect some of these connectors. Here we got the tank down. These are the 2 electrical connections that I disconnected as it was coming down. This is the sender for how full the tank is. This is what turns on your fuel pump. So we're going to disconnect these lines, and that way we can get the tank all the way down and work on the fuel pump. This is just a breather that goes up to your intake, part of emissions. Okay, now we're going to disconnect the fuel lines, the return line and the send line. Okay, now that we got fuel everywhere and the tank down, I'm gonna get there's like a little slip ring we're gonna undo. I'm sure Ford makes a special tool for this, but I just use a punch and a hammer and just slowly kind of work it around. Once it's loose, the ring can come off. Now your fuel pump. This can be a pain to get out. It's kind of fitting a square peg through a round hole. Okay, here's our new DeatschWerks in-tank fuel pump. Flows 320 liters per hour and is E85 compatible. Comes with new fittings, directions. Okay, now we're going to remove these little bolts. They're tiny 3/16, 2 on each side. Now with 1/4 inch, we're going to remove the hose clamps. And I'm going to just cut these wires. We're going to splice into them. Don't cut them too close in case you need some extra to redo the splicing. Okay, so here's our assembled new DeatschWerks fuel pump. You can see I spliced the wires on there. Make sure you tighten your clamps down. It's kind of a pain to get that bend in there as you tighten this down. And then the new filter sock that's attached there. Also note it comes with a new little ring to put on that nipple right there to keep the sock from coming off. So that's it. Now we're ready to go drop it back in the tank. Okay, here we go again. We're going to install our new assembly. Again, it's like a square peg, literally in a round hole. Remove that O-ring so we don't drop it down inside. Okay, we got our fuel pump assembly in there now. There's a cavity inside the tank that we didn't have it in. We had it next to, so we had to pull it back out and kind of guide it down into that cavity so that it would go all the way in there. Once you got it in there, you take your O-ring. That's going to go on the bottom side, so it creates a seal. A little groove it sits in. And take our O-ring. Put that back on. I'm just going to work it back on there again with our Okay, I don't know if you can see it, but there's little lips right here. You want to make sure that those lips are all the way up against the lips on the tank so it sits nice and tight. Next, we're going to get it in position and start reattaching these lines. We're going to get it back on the jack, get it closer so we can attach the lines and the fueler. Alright, so now we got the tank on the jack, up a little bit higher so we can connect the fuel lines and the electrical connections. Alright, now the fun part, we're gonna raise up the fuel tank and at the same time guide this fill hose into the tank. Okay, now with the tank in place, we're gonna bolt down the two sides on the strap on the passenger side. And now we're going to tighten the strap on the driver's side. Now we're going to go ahead and tighten the bracket for the fill hose. Okay, now we're going to tighten the fill tube.